Welcome to View from the Top. I'm Modele Sharafa Yusuf, and I thank you for tuning in. For a long time, there's been a love-hate relationship between the Nigerian people and the Nigeria police. Successive governments expressed the desire to reform the Nigeria police force, given its strategic importance to internal security. The NPF also says it is working hard to reform itself. Close watchers of the institution will attest to the fact that there have been major improvements in some areas, especially with the cracking of many high-profile criminal cases. But equally high-profile missteps by men of the police force sometimes give the impression that not much has changed. And then, of course, prejudices die hard. On April 21, 2015, Mr. Solomon Arase was handed his opportunity to turn the force around when he was appointed Acting Inspector General of Police. IGP Solomon Arase joins us today on View from the Top, and I want to thank him very much.
Thank you.
Let's get you acquainted with the new Inspector General before we launch into our conversation. Mr. Solomon Arase was born on June 21, 1956. He enlisted in the Nigeria Police in 1981 after earning a degree in political science in 1980 from Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. He also got a bachelor's degree in law from the University of Benin, a master's in law from the Lagos State University, and another master's degree in strategic studies from the University of Ibadan. He's a fellow of the Nigeria Defense College and a recipient of the National Police Medal. Mr. Arase is the 10th Indigenous Inspector General of Police. Sir, do you think that the police are judged too harshly by the people, or is some of the criticism deserved?
Well, I could say it is both ways. Just as you rightly said, public perception, sometimes they are. I think our approach towards internal security management has been a bit faulty. They've been this sage mentality, like we against them. When you have an organization that has to enforce the law, whether the law is draconian or it is soft law, people naturally will always want to react negatively to such a force. I think that is where the Nigerian police force has found itself. The way it was set up initially, from the colonial era, it was an instrument of, oppression. The colonialists, they used them to ensure that the natives, they put them in line, Since then, after independence, there are some critical areas where we've not been able to actually address, like putting the social content of policing into, our policing mandate. I think that is one area a lot of people have found very, very difficult to accept. They see us as we've not been able to, warm ourselves into the hearts and minds of, the people. We are not sometimes civil. Sometimes they feel we can't be trusted. Sometimes they believe that our methods of investigations are a bit harsh. So these are the areas. And when a police force does not incorporate the social content of policing into his mandate, definitely, the people will begin to see you as, alien, to the environment. So what we are trying to see how we can do, connect with the society again. Tell them that we cannot actualize our mandate without, them. 370,000 police officers is not sufficient to be able to, police the security space in this country. So as of right, we have to, ensure that the community where our men they serve, they are carried along. They trust us. They believe that, we are the people's police. Then, the perception that we are now having, I think will continue to ebb, with time.
In your first public assignment, just like now, you acknowledged that the problems were negative attitude and image of the police. You mentioned specific irritants like roadblocks and commercialization of bail and things like that at police stations. Like many of your predecessors, you also ordered the dismantling of all police roadblocks across the country. But, the lowest paid policeman earns less than some people pay their personal guards, those whom they call May guards. What are you doing to make sure that your men are so comfortable that they don't need to resort to corruption to make ends meet?
What this management is trying to do, we are trying to see how we can put in place some welfare packages that would discourage corruption, especially the inspectors and rank and file. That is the target of this administration. They are the foot soldiers. They are the ones who, have constant contact with members of the public. If we are able to put this welfare, salary sometimes, does not translate to, yes, they need a good pay, yes. But we should be able to put some certain things in place, like a good housing scheme. If they know that if they retire, they have somewhere to go into, 2-bedroom apartment in a decent environment, where they have schools within the estate where their children can access, where they have some shopping malls where their wives, can, warehouse their goods and make some extra money for the family. And you tell them, if I give you these things, and along the line, there's a misstep, you lose that, you lose those privileges that you are supposed to get at the end of your career. Not all of them would stay online, but majority of them will stay online. And sometimes you start talking to them about the social stigma that is associated with corruption. So all those areas where I think I can, touch them in such a way that I will not have the moral latitude to go against them whenever they err. Those are the areas where this administration wants to focus on.
Over the years, there have been various police reform committees.
Yeah.
In 2006, you served as Secretary of the Presidential Committee on Police Reform. You were also a member of the Nigeria Police Committee on Review of the Nigerian Constitution and the Police Act. Give us an update, if you will, on the police reform reports over the years.
The police reform, looked at the short-term, mid-term, and long-term, imperatives of, making the Nigerian police force, an effective and efficient police force. That of 2006, in which I acted as the secretary, was set up by the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo. The main issue then was this issue of public perception. What are we going to do to win the hearts and minds of, the public back to the police? These issues of corruption, we are not being effective, we are not being able to. They said, okay, look, there are some that you can attach monetary things to, like attitudinal change, ensuring that the capacity of the officers and men is boosted up. The training colleges, they are truly training colleges. We are able to take a look at, the syllabus and see how we can align it with current international best practices. All those were things that, we could not attach, we are not going to attach monetary issues to. There were also some issues they looked at, which was a bit structural. Our barracks are not very good. They also tinkered with the idea of, is it possible to have a decentralized police force where you unbundle, the office? The idea was that policing in this country is over-centralized. The office of the IG is, the directive is from, top, to bottom. So they suggested then that, could we create maybe the DIGs? Can you send them to the 6 geopolitical zones? Allow them some latitude in terms of overhead, budgetary allocations, giving them some powers, where they will be able to, maybe promote from maybe constables to inspectors. And they were very laudable, initiative. But just like, most of the reforms we've had in this country, the implementation strategy was not in place. That area, we failed, and it was a transition. The Obasanjo regime was transiting then when the white paper came out. So when it came out, the late president, Shehu Yaradua, now became a president. They now subjected that white paper again to another review. So you discover that we kept on doing reforms without really taking a look at the implementation strategy of making those reforms to work. So I think that is one area where I think we should be able to pay some attention to.
You have served in various departments, as I said in my intro. Some say intelligence is the weakest link in the chain. You were Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of the force intelligence before this happened. What are the challenges? And now that you can, what are you going to do about it?
It took us about 30-something years in the Nigerian police force for us to be able to place, a department that will be able to deal strictly with criminal intelligence. When the other administration of MD Awaka came on stream, he thought it wise that we should now start specializing in trying to get. There's no police force that can work without intelligence. We decided to set up the intelligence school in Enugu, where we now started, retraining on our officers. And when we started doing that, we started seeing that, we could now crime map the country in terms of criminal activities. We could crime map the states in terms of criminal activities. And we could make predictions about what is likely to happen if we don't do that. It became a very robust department. But what happened along the line, we derailed again. The school was shut down for about a year, but I've just reopened it about 2 weeks ago. We are going to continue with that. There is no country that's, anywhere in the world that does not, will not rely on intelligence to drive, its policing functions. One of the areas too where the intelligence can also help is in issues of this investigation we are talking about. If you say intelligence-driven investigations, it means I will not allow my officers to pick up any Nigerian from the streets, put them in the cell, and start shopping for evidence. You have to shop for evidence first, or intelligence first, before you invite them. That way, you are engaging in restorative justice. The period of pretrial detention is lessened. The human rights abuses that is usually associated with the police is we take it out of the system, and the issue of corruption, where you now start going through the processes of bail, is totally halted. So there is no. We cannot police our society without adequate intelligence, and that is exactly what we are going to do.
You talked about corruption just now. There have also been allegations that funds allocated to the police for sundry purposes sometimes end up in different people's pockets. And rank and file policemen, for example, complain that they sometimes have to buy their own uniforms. Do you know this for a fact? Do you know that this is true? Have you verified that this is true?
Yeah, sometimes the allegations are always there, but...
and what are you doing about it?
Well, you have to also take into consideration that budgetary allocations vis-a-vis, the actual releases, you have to take both of them into consideration. It is very easy for you to say, so amount of money was allocated to a particular ministry or department. If you read between the lines, you discover that most of them are for overhead, salaries, allowances, and all those type of things. Most of the capital budgetary allocations, which is supposed to maybe create a technical platform for these systems, they are hardly, funded. So there is always that disconnect between, the budgetary allocations and the actual
what's on paper and what's released eventually.
Yes, these things they've been a steady decline over the years, and it has increased the debt profile of the Nigerian police force. But all the same, these issues you mentioned about our inability to properly kit our men, I should think that should be one of the areas that we should be interested in.
Please hold on to that thought, Inspector General of Police. We have to take a break now. We ask that you please join us again after this short break.